Up until the moment I said no, I was only the backup daughter. Have you ever had the silent, nagging realization that you've never quite fit in with your own family? Mine was the day I was told there was no place at the table for me, as I stood in the corner of my little brother's lavish graduation celebration, clutching a wrapped $1,300 present that I had been saving for months. This isn't a metaphor, please. There wasn't even a chair. But allow me to go back a little. My name is Sophie, 26. Minneapolis is where I was born and raised. Noah, the golden boy, has an older sister. Louder, more endearing, less. 3 years younger. Everything else. I could have retired before the age of 25 if I had $1 for each time. My parents exclaimed. We're so proud of Noah. What if I had a $1 for each time they told me that? Maybe I could buy a donut. Day old. My parents gave me 2 complete words when I won first place in a statewide math competition. Good job. They looked up from their phones. However, there was a barbecue in the backyard after Noah received honorable mention in a local soccer match, not a victory, mind you. Balloons, neighbors, burgers, speeches. For the occasion, my dad even purchased a Bluetooth speaker. That was the first time I truly felt it in my bones. I wasn't wealthy enough to buy fairness, which is a luxury. I lost the ability to see every victory I gained. Every defeat he escaped turned into a legend. When I learned that I was never supposed to receive the praise, I was 8 years old. At the school assembly, I was selected to recite a poem. I put my entire being into every phrase as I practiced for days. My mother blinked and muttered, "Oh," when I returned home beaming with pride. "It's okay. Remember to bring Noah's shoes inside before it starts to rain." My mother was concerned about dirty shoes, but I stood motionless, clutching a rumpled piece of paper that my instructor described as emotional and wise beyond her age. Something like that doesn't break you all at once. It's not that fast. A gradual erasure. Similar to chalk and rain. I was carrying a torn bag with damaged zippers as Noah got new Adidas cleats. He celebrated his 13th birthday at Centennial Park with 30 people and food trucks. But no one acknowledged my 16th. I photographed his gathering. The photos were taken by me, for them. He deserves all of this, my mother murmured to a neighbor in the background. He makes our house happier. Joy. Has anyone ever inquired about my well-being? Had I eaten? If I had the feeling that I might be vanishing? Mom was massaging Noah's forehead and he was drinking hot lemon tea when he sneezed. Don't exaggerate, I was told when I had stomach cramps that were unbearable. After 3 part-time jobs, sleepless nights, and sheer perseverance, I printed out the letter announcing my acceptance into a prominent STEM program, nearly trembling with excitement. Just don't slack on chores, my dad mumbled, blinking, and my mom. She remarked, don't get too caught up, with a wan smile. You'll have to care for a family someday. You're still a girl. I stopped anticipating pride at that point. I took up my own. College followed. In some perverse sense, it did, so I studied as if my life depended on it. 4 years. Glory be to God. Economics. Wisconsin University at Madison. That should at least earn you a cake, right? They arrived 1 hour late, said the traffic. However, rather than making it to the ceremony on time, they had stopped at the grocery to purchase a cheap bouquet of wilting tulips. As though she had brought me diamonds, my mother said, "We thought yellow would look nice on you. No embrace." "No, we're proud," I said softly. "Want to celebrate by going out to dinner?" "Dad, are you making the payment?" "Me? Sure." I spent $120 that evening, with the money I earned from the university library's bookshelves. They didn't even express gratitude. "I should learn to eat more frugally," my mother said. While eating cold lasagna that evening, I vowed to myself, never anticipate anything once more. And I held on to it for a time. Until 2 years later, when Noah graduated, I was drinking bitter coffee at my desk in a street Paul office that morning when I received the following text. Tonight is Noah's graduation celebration. 6 p.m. The Stone Creek restaurant. Bring a present. No invitation. No. Are you available? No. I hope all is well with you. Only a directive. As I gazed at that message, I thought back to my own graduation. The platters were empty. The quiet. I paid the check. And yet, still, I came. Because there was a part of me that wanted to try. the part that still clung to the word family as if it had meaning. Again, I sent the eatery an iPad Pro, wrapped as a gift, $1,300. I've lost my bonus after a terrible quarter. As soon as I entered, chandeliers, tables covered with linen, more than 60 visitors, cake with 3 layers in Noah's preferred hue. Nevertheless, the waiter shook his head and looked over the list when I asked for a seat. I apologize, but everything is reserved. Only one chair remained, and it was next to Noah. I moved in its direction. Mom took over. For Jason, that is, Noah's closest companion. He is simply being late. Then she said it. Keep quiet. Sharp. You had better avoid embarrassing the family if you didn't bring a gift. I didn't wince. It buzzed on my phone. This is the delivery man. Hello, I have the iPad outside. I moved forward with a composed voice, slicing through the laughing like a knife. Noah. This is a gift for your graduation. An iPad Pro. Shocks, whispers, eyes that flash. See? Mom grinned as she bent over to a cousin. I was certain she wouldn't arrive without anything. I gazed at her. Next, at Noah. Next, the box. And I made it very clear I've decided against it. I want the order to be canceled. The air broke. My brother's mouth fell open. Mom's smile went cold. The man who delivered it blinked. A 5% cancellation fee applies. Refunds will be issued within 3 to 5 business days. I gave a nod. It's okay. After that, I left. Not a drama. Don't cry. Only one fact. A seat at a table that was never intended for me is unnecessary. I ceased to be their emotional mule on that day. That night, I didn't take a direct drive home. Rather, I was in the gloomy light of a cafe on the outskirts of Edina that was only partially occupied. It's the kind of establishment where the tables are chipped, jazz is playing softly, and the barista doesn't ask questions when your eyes appear too sleepy to speak. I chose the corner booth and got an iced espresso. My coat was still on when I sat there, gazing at the glass's condensation. You would think that after regaining my power, I would feel victorious. However, my feelings was silent. Not numb, not upset, simply be silent, as if I had dropped a 100-pound backpack that I had been wearing since I was a child and didn't even realize it. In that house, no one had ever stood up for me, not once, and I had chosen myself and gone for the first time. For hours, I remained there, let my drink's ice melt. As if to tease me, I watched the city lights outside the window blink. Look, Sophie. You are at liberty. What comes next? I returned home shortly before midnight. The lights are still on. I should have simply walked by them, I knew. Went right to sleep. However, I had had enough of acting like we were anything but regular. My mother was already waiting on the couch, her arms crossed like if she were using her elbows to support the roof, with a grimace of disappointment on his face, as if I had wrecked Christmas. My dad leaned against the hearth and said nothing. So you finally decided to come home, my mother exclaimed as soon as I took over. Calmly, I kicked off my shoes. I assumed you would be asleep. One of those sour, chest-deep chuckles that doesn't make it to the eyes, Dad snorted. After tonight's circus performance? Making us look bad in front of everyone, and then entering as if nothing had occurred? Not irritated, I sat on the armchair's edge. Simply exhausted. I'm exhausted. Perhaps we should stop acting like this family isn't one big, depressing show, if that was a circus. The tone of Mom's voice shifted 2 degrees. The expense of tonight's celebration was $4,600. Paying half is the very least you could do. I blinked. You're kidding. Without blinking, she added. Think of it as compensation. You canceled the iPad, I chuckled. Not the type that makes you laugh. The kind where you can taste the bitterness of disbelief. Let me clarify. I was asked simply about the present, told not to embarrass you, and refused a seat. Now I'm expected to pay $2,300 for a dinner that I wasn't invited to. Dad's tone became piercing. You're his sister. You ought to feel accountable. His night was wrecked by you. I balled my fists in my hands, silently. Remember my graduation at all? I inquired. No celebration. Not a cake. No embrace. It's just me, eating quick noodles and working late shifts to pay for your dinner. My mother's expression froze. You were employed. Noah didn't. He required assistance. I gave a nod, slowly. Indeed, I was employed. I had 3. Scholarships were awarded to me, as I had no other option. Additionally, I felt that I didn't deserve to be taken care of because I looked after myself. I hoped my dad would talk like a father instead of a referee for once. Instead, as if it were a lesson, he sighed softly and said, "Family entails helping one another out. You share if you make more money." I got to my feet. Beneath me, the couch creaked. When did I get sick? When Noah had a warm ride to school and I was chilly on my bike? When he turned 13 with fireworks and I turned 18 without cake? Then, where was the sharing? No response. Just quiet that is sharp enough to pierce. Mom got up as well, pointing with her finger like a dagger. "You're self-centered. How are you going to make it in the real world if you can't even show consideration for your own brother?" I looked her in the eyes. I didn't turn away for the first time in my life. It's not that I'm incapable of giving. It's because I've been providing. My entire dang existence. When I say no for the first time, am I self-centered? The room became silent, as if we had arrived to a precipice and nobody wanted to be the first to move. Then Dad said it. The blow that had been building inside his chest, since I stopped laughing at his jokes at the age of 12. "Stop freeloading in this house if you are unwilling to assist this family." I gazed at him. "My rent is $1,000 each month, in this residence, with its flimsy walls, malfunctioning heater, and your voice resonating in every nook and cranny. Say so if you want me to leave." He didn't think twice. "All right, leave." I gave a nod. "All right. Don't shout. Don't cry. Simply, all right." Because I'd already left that family somewhere between the iPad I returned and the lasagna I paid for. I was just getting caught up to myself now. I began packing the following morning. 2 bags. Not anymore. I refrained from crying. Did not tremble. I just meticulously folded my clothes, as if I were putting the last 26 years of unseen work to rest. As if I were at last putting the anguish they never acknowledged into order. My mom knocked and rushed in as soon as I closed the second suitcase. As usual, without pausing, no deference, she sat on my bed as if it were her own. "Your father was unforgiving last night. However, now that you've relaxed," I didn't raise my eyes. "Say what you were supposed to say. I'm occupied." She cleared her throat. She lowered her voice. "We were considering. Would you mind lending Noah your car for a bit? He is going to be interviewed for a job. Additionally, you already have a job." I chuckled. Something brief and breathy. It was incredibly predictable, not because it was humorous. "You're interested in my automobile, the one I purchased after 8 months of saving. Using my funds," she stated, "just for a few months. He needs it badly." I crossed my arms and stood. "I can sell it to him. I'll pay him a reasonable amount." As if I had just offered to sell her a kidney. Her eyes widened. "Will you accuse your own brother?" "No," I answered in a stony voice. "I'll bill someone for my vehicle, and I'm sick of being treated like a heartless walking ATM." I heard my father walking. Like thunder, he emerged in the doorway. "Sophie, that is too much." I looked over at him. "Be calm, centered. The use of, he has nothing as a justification to force me to give up everything is excessive. I haven't spoken for long enough." As if I were on trial, he pointed at me. "Go if you don't feel valued here." And I did. I didn't plead. I refrained from screaming. The door wasn't even slammed by me. After rolling my bags out the front door and down the stairs, I entered a world that had always appeared frigid, but at least it didn't pretend to love me. "After me," Mom said. "You can't live alone forever." I didn't look back. Simply stated I would rather walk alone if the price of assistance is my dignity. I then departed. I didn't see that house again after that. Not in the role of a daughter. However, as a woman who at last understood, I was done paying for their love, which had always been a transaction. The scent of old cigarette smoke and bleach filled the motel room. The wallpaper was peeling, the overhead light was buzzing, and there was only one twin bed with uncomfortable-looking bedding. $580 per month. Pay in advance. No inquiries were made. It was flawless, because I had 4 walls that no one could pass through for the first time in 26 years. No one coming in and demanding my patience, my car, or my salary. Silence, a suitcase, and myself. It is the type of quiet that seems therapeutic rather than punitive. Nestled behind a truck stop and a neon diner sign that had not functioned for years, the motel was located just outside Bloomington. It wasn't home. It was mine, though. I didn't talk for 2 days unless absolutely necessary. Consumed instant noodles right out of the container. Kept my phone off. Didn't look at the texts. Skipped the scroll. Before I could start over, I had to vanish. This is what peace sounds like, I muttered to myself as I gazed at the fractured ceiling. On the third day, I went hunting, not to exact revenge, not for approval, for space only. An apartment with 1 bedroom, inexpensive, keep quiet, no roommates, not a family, not guilty. 5 viewings, 12 phone calls, and one point when I thought I would give up, until I did. West Street Paul, $500 per month, including utilities, the second level of a dilapidated brick structure. The walls had not been painted since the Bush administration. The floorboards were damaged, and there was no elevator. The wide lawn in front of the window, however, was bathed in a golden glow from the afternoon sun. "This is my home," I muttered as I stood in that empty room holding a key. I just had 2 luggage, a $20 folding table that swayed on one leg, and a Target air mattress when I moved in the following day. I didn't give a damn. All of the objects in that room shared one characteristic: it was my choice. Not because I was ordered to. Not because it brought joy to others. Only for me. The first week was devoted cleaning, removing layers from another person's life, retaping the corners of the walls, utilizing a dollar shop rod to suspend inexpensive drapes. A lavender pot was placed on the windowsill by me. This time, the smell wasn't one of bitterness, but rather of the backyard where I grew up. It had a release scent to it. I had to start from scratch when it came to living alone. Getting out of bed, preparing my own breakfast, which consisted of toast and eggs, the way I preferred, not the way my mother claimed it was healthier for girls. No one downstairs was yelling. There were no stomping footsteps. Noah wasn't shouting, "Where's my charger?" as if the world owed him explanations. I reorganized my professional life. Side projects have been put on hold. Only took on the clients I desired. I never pursued promotions. I didn't murder myself to earn more money. I simply earned enough, because every dollar was mine for the first time. No unstated family taxes. No silent presumptions that I would ruin someone else's dream. I lit a candle in the kitchen at night and observed the flames' movement. I sat with a blanket on the hardwood floor, watched old black and white movies on my laptop, and read books that I had previously been hesitant to buy because I was worried Mom would call them waste. I also chuckled. Aloud. I laughed so hard. Nobody told me to stop talking. Nobody gave an eye roll. I penned letters to my 10-year-old self and maintained a journal next to my mattress. "Hey kid, we arrived. We're here," even though it took longer than it should have. And gradually, I started to develop my forgiveness skills. Not because it was fair to them. However, I didn't want to take their burden with me into my new environment. Every time I went grocery shopping, I didn't hear, "Did you also purchase some for Noah?" Each time I didn't get a wake-up call saying, "Sophie, drive your brother tomorrow," after turning off my phone at 10 p.m. It was like bandaging a wound that had been bleeding for years without my knowledge. It was 6 weeks later. They hadn't gotten back to me. No phone calls. Don't text. No phony excuses cloaked in nice words. Nothing but quiet, as if they had finally wiped me out, and perhaps they believed they had triumphed. Then the email arrived. Not even a paragraph. Not a query. Not even a hello. Only a single line. From Noah. "How are you? I have to take out a loan. That's all. No thank you for everything you did. No hope you're okay. And no recognition of what transpired inside the restaurant. No apologies for requesting my automobile. Just a simple question. As if I were still a sentimental vending machine they could press to get what they wanted. I gazed at it. I wasn't upset. I refrained from crying. I made no hesitation at all. After selecting archive, I shut down my laptop. After that, I glanced out my window. It was the blooming lavender plant. Standing tall even after weeks in a cheap pot, it is a gentle purple against the sunlight. Suddenly, I came to the realization I hadn't simply walked out of the house. I was no longer with them, not with malice, but out of respect for oneself, because I wasn't destined to be the family's backup. I wasn't made to use my diligence to make up for their bad decisions. I wasn't the fallback option. I was not a backup daughter. I was the start of myself. Furthermore, true, authentic freedom didn't feel like pyrotechnics. This is how it felt. The floor is lit by sunlight, a calm apartment's hum, and being aware that I was the only one with a key. They returned, but not for me. They didn't recall my existence for precisely 3 months. After my father declared, "You're not my daughter anymore," I was silent for 3 months. No text on your birthday, no check in, not even an indirect message from an aunt who lives far away. Then my phone rang without warning. It was a Saturday, late in the afternoon. I was in the small cafe by my apartment, the one with the softest corner seat by the window and the walls that were deep crimson. When her name appeared on the screen, I had just added cream to my coffee. Mom. 5 rings passed while I gazed at it, then 6. I then took it up. She has a lovely voice, too sweet, like syrup on shattered glass. "I miss you, Sophie," she replied softly. "A long time has passed. Are you all right?" I took a while to respond. That voice seemed familiar to me. I was aware of its quiet, which always preceded a favor. So I went right through. "What are you looking for?" She hesitated. Her swallowing was audible to me. "We'd want to see you," she continued, sounding lighter now, as if this were not a serious matter. "Noah, your dad, and me. There is simply something we'd want to discuss. Family-related items." It nearly made me chuckle. Family matters. Yes. However, curiosity can be amusing. Sometimes you want to keep an eye on who attempts to cross the bridge, even after you've burned it. I replied, "Okay." That Monday night, we got together at a little Italian restaurant downtown. They thought I would be impressed with a classy yet affordable restaurant. A battlefield that is impartial. I got there on schedule. Mom was seated immediately, sporting that fake smile that always made my skin itch, along with a new sweater. Behaving as though he was being helpful by being there, Dad had placed an order for a drink. And Noah was attempting to look like a man by dressing in a formal shirt and tie. I didn't grin, didn't greet them. I did nothing but sit. First, my father cleared his throat. "Noah has a new business idea," he added in a steady, practiced voice. "A contemporary cafe. Make room.live music. Handmade pastries. We believe it has genuine promise." Like it was a TED Talk, Mom nodded. "He has a lot of passion. He has a whole strategy. He only needs a little assistance getting going." Then it arrived. "We were considering. Perhaps you could give him a $50,000 loan. Make a loan." "Correct." I looked across at Noah. "Do you have any prior company management experience? Controlling expenses? Stock? Payroll?" He had a sheepish appearance. "I mean, no. However, I have a lot of passion. I have a complete vision. All I need is the money." I folded my hands and leaned back. "Let me lend it," I responded coolly. No enthusiasm. However, there is a requirement. They all stood up straight. Behind their eyes, hope flashed. Then I said it. "A formal agreement is signed by Mom and Dad. You pledged the house as security. The house will be mine if Noah doesn't repay the debt within a year." As if someone had cracked the windows in a Minnesota winter, the room's temperature fell. Slowly, my dad put down his drink. He clenched his fingers around the stem as if he were trying to shatter it. "What on earth do you mean?" I said. "If you truly think this is a great investment, if you believe in him, put something real on the line." Mom's face went white. "We've been in that house for more than 30 years, Sophie. Our home is there. We can't be asked to take that chance." I gave her a direct look. "I spent 26 years living in the house. It never felt like mine because of you. My money must be accompanied by something equally valuable if you desire it." Noah's voice broke. "I didn't anticipate you being so icy." The warmth was gone from my smile. "Just be honest. Noah, you didn't even think. You made an assumption that I would arrive. I would give that. That I'd go above and above since I've always done that. However, I am no longer she. Water splashed across the cloth as my dad slapped his hand on the table. You lack gratitude. You only think about yourself. You are no longer my daughter. I got up slowly, grabbed my napkin. I wiped my coat of the wetness. That's convenient, I muttered. Because I never felt like your daughter in that house anyway. I then left. Don't shout. No grandiose storming. Just a tidy departure. Because you realize that someone never saw you at all until they ultimately perceive you as helpful, solely in times of need. There was nothing after that night. No phone calls. Don't text. Not even a resentful note about how I forsook the family. I seemed to have vanished from the world. And just once. It didn't bother me. It wasn't a lonely silence. It was quiet. Because they were afraid to cross the line that I had established this time. The bridge wasn't burned by me. I simply stopped holding it. It was 3 months later. Early fall melted summer. The air became sharp. Harriet Park's trees began to lose their green. My tiny abode, complete with a moss-green armchair and a used bookcase, started to feel precious. Something was earned. I purchased a dining table from a secondhand store in my neighborhood. Only 2 chairs. I like the thought of being able to invite someone today. Not because I anticipated guests. According to my terms. I ran every morning, made coffee, listened to podcasts on individuals who created their own life from nothing and to jazz. I am liked by others. Individuals who chose themselves but weren't selected. Until I met Emily at the farmer's market one Saturday, my dad's niece. Even though we weren't tight, she always had that gentle, pathetic smile on her face when she didn't know the whole story, just the main points. Her expression altered when she spotted me, as though she had seen a ghost. She sighed. Sophie, have you not heard? I arched an eyebrow. Heard what? She lowered her voice and glanced about as if the tomatoes were listening. Noah's cafe closed. 3 months. Enormous losses. No clients. Utterly insolvent. I didn't respond. Simply preserved the quiet like a light. Emily continued. In order to pay off the debt, your parents had to sell the house. For weeks, it has been available for purchase. They are reportedly searching for a rental property in the suburbs. I gave a nod. No grin. Don't frown. Simply remain motionless. And, she said hesitantly, no one has brought you up. Not once. You seem to have never existed. I gave a little chuckle. Not mean. Simply. Sincere. Then they at last received what they had always desired. Emily didn't say anything else, although it seemed like she wanted to. I chose my tomatoes, made my payment, and walked out. But before I turned, I muttered, tell them I'm doing fine if they ask. I'm also not returning. I made spaghetti that night, played jazz softly. Candles were lit on my windowsill. The leaves were dancing in the streetlight outside, curving into spirals the color of rust. After pouring a glass of red wine for myself, I sat quietly. Not the sort that meant I had no voice, the kind I grew up with. This was not like the others. This was the quiet of possession, of being there, of a life that was mine at last. The ancient house sprang to mind, the one where I studied, cooked, and cleaned. When I got cramps and nobody even provided a glass of water, I slumped against the walls. Every morning, I walked the stairs while listening to Mom zip up Noah's backpack. And it was gone now, not scorched. Simply, no more for me to mourn. Because I no longer grieved for those who never grieved for me. Noah wasn't hated by me. I wasn't even hostile toward my parents. However, I've finally realized something that nobody ever tells you. You owe no one your life since they only showed you conditional affection. I didn't let them down. They didn't notice me. Additionally, that type of loss is distinct. I kept a journal that evening. I wrote a letter to my former self, the silent waiter at every dinner table who wanted attention. The person who believed that silence, duties, and academics were the only ways to gain affection. I wrote, you were never the problem. They refused to look into the mirror, which was you. I received another email a week later, from Noah. Hey, I am aware that things were difficult. I am aware that we haven't spoken. But I'm in dire need of assistance. Only for a short time. I'm attempting to stand again. No salutations. Don't apologize. No, I apologize for assuming everything. Simply said. Another hand was extended. I didn't respond. I wasn't upset. I simply shut down the browser and went outside. The air was crisp and cool. Despite some wilting due to the changing season, my lavender plant remained upright. Despite this, I'm proud and purple. I came to the realization that I had also become that. Not resentful, just unaltered at this time. I had accepted that some families are based solely on blood, not on behavior. When that love is treated like money, it turns into a debt you never accepted. Therefore, no, I didn't leave them to be punished. I left in order to recall who I was. Furthermore, I didn't slam the door after myself. I didn't shout. I just ceased to hold it open. Now, whenever someone asks me, Sophie, will you ever return? The response is straightforward, no. It's not that I'm intolerant. However, I am free, and occasionally, the most courageous thing you'll ever do is refusing to stay after being urged to shrink. Sophie stayed with her family. She simply stopped running away from herself. Thank you if you've read this far. And perhaps it's time you asked yourself, do I deserve to be seen too? If you've ever felt like the ignored one, the backup, or the unseen sibling. For as soon as you quit pleading for a place at someone else's table, is the realization that you could have constructed your own all along.